Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So this is ADHD for short, which is a condition defined as an individual who has chronic and serious inattentiveness, hyperactivity, and/or impulsivity that is more severe and occurs more frequently than in peers. And this is a definition from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSMV. So, long story short, a neurological development disorder resulting in issues of attention and executive functions. There are 3 types. Predominantly an attentive type, student is often appearing to be daydreaming, spacing out. They may not hear the teacher's instructions or directions. It may skip parts of assignments without even realizing it. They could also be frequently losing things or putting things in the wrong place. However, they are not physically more distracted than their peers. It's more up here. The predominantly hyperactive impulsive type is the opposite. Students that are physically moving more than their peers. They tend to be impetuous, acting before they're thinking, squirming in their seat, tapping things like pencils or markers or their fingers, and will blurt out answers during instruction. Thirdly, there's the combined type. The student displays characteristics of both types depending on which one is more apparent or predominant. These things might vary, but they both experience inattention and restricting their movement. But overall, this is less about inattention and more the inability to regulate their attention. So this is due to a failure of developing executive functions that most people use to regulate their behaviors. Executive functions, there are 4. There's working memory, the ability to remember what tasks are supposed to be done and how much time there is to do them. Self-directed speech is the silent self-talk that most people use to manage a complex task. There's control of emotions and motivation. So the ability to talk oneself into calming down and doing a more difficult or frustrating task. And then there's the reconstitution, which is the ability to combine skills learned across a variety of settings in order to carry out a new task. So, like when learning the skill of using a low voice during work time, that also applies in the hallway. Your voice shouldn't be above a certain level, or in the lunchroom, or in the office. So how can we accommodate students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? There are several interventions that you can use. First, we have behavior interventions. So first, be aware of both inattentive and hyperactive distractions. First, consider the environmental demands and address these as a means of preventing behavior problems. So typically, students act out less and have behavior issues when they sit near the front of the classroom in a space that has fewer visual or auditory distractions, and sitting closer to where the teacher is instructing the majority of the time. Students could also be allowed options like standing while they're working, or using alternative seating like a sitting desk or a beanbag, something of those sorts, or a wobble stool, allowing them to get out their movement while they're working. Professionals also recommend using interventions that emphasize structure and reward. So like using very specific verbal praise or stickers or other symbols to signal that they are exhibiting the proper behavior. If corrections or reprimands are necessary, make them clear, direct, and deliver them very calmly. So say Tanner has been blurting out the entire class. Directly speak to him and say, very clearly, very calmly, Tanner, do not call out the answers. You need to raise your hand and wait to be called on. This informs the student that they're not exhibiting the proper behavior and gives them a direct path on how to achieve that behavior. Parent education. So this is not your main involvement, but you can incorporate information to parents that helps them respond to their child's behavior at home and community settings. Parent education can also effectively build collaboration between home and school, which can have a significant positive impact on the functioning of a student. Again, although it's not your responsibility, you can help direct them towards people who know programs, or if you know of programs that parents can learn strategies for responding to their child's behavior, ways to create disciplinary systems that include both rewards and consequences, help provide tips to help these children make friends because they often have social skills that they're lacking, and again, skills for the parents to collaborate with you and with other school professionals about the student's academics. Medications, also something you're not super involved in, but approximately 70% of the 6 million children ages 4 through 17 identified as having ADHD take medication. These medications are prescribed, and this decision is made by the parents and their physicians. The most common type of medication prescribed to students with ADHD are stimulants. So students may take other medications on top of this, including antidepressants or antihypertensives. An antihypertensive is a class of drugs that is used to treat hypertension and low blood pressure. Proper dosage is really important. Some researchers contend that dosage high enough to cause an improvement in behavior can cause things like lethargy and negatively affect the student's academic learning. So this is why it's important for you to know about medications that are commonly prescribed, because you may need to alert your school nurse and or parents if you suspect that the change in medication is affecting the student's learning or behavior in class. And you also need to be prepared to respond to parents' questions or medical inquiries regarding the effects of medications on a particular student in particular situations. Academic interventions. Students who are medicated or not typically will need some sort of intervention. The best thing you can do is use the include model as a strategy to design lessons effectively and teach these students. Try to emphasize only essential information. For example, when giving oral instructions, give them in a clear, concise list of directions, maybe even numerically, like first put your name on the paper, write down one sentence per an answer in your response to the questions, and finally, turn it into the green basket by the door. When reading for comprehension, students with ADHD often have a hard time with longer passages, so breaking them up into shorter segments and checking for comprehension at those checkpoints, and then moving on to another section and checking at that checkpoint will help them better succeed at comprehension and give you a better idea of what they are actually understanding. This can also be applied for older students with lengthier assignments, breaking it into smaller parts and assigning each component separately and checking progress at each point. In math, giving the students extended time period to work on computational work is important because their attention problems interfere with their efficiency to do that type of task. In large group instruction, keep the pace lively and provide several opportunities for students to participate, like trading answers to questions with a partner, working with manipulatives and repeating answers as a whole class once the answer is given. Pardon me. Environmental supports. So the way you arrange your classroom can foster learning for students with ADHD, or it can impede it. Your classroom should be free from distractional items, such as items hanging from the ceiling that might twirl in the air when the AC comes on or the window opens. Things in piles around the room like extra books, papers, art supplies. All these things can be distracting to students, so keeping a clean area visually will greatly improve their ability to focus. Also, keeping the environment conducive to learning for these students by having clear classroom rules and routines will be super helpful. Obviously, some things have to change sometimes, but being able to alert these students and make sure that they have support when things do need to change by maybe assigning them a peer to assist them through the changes, or quietly giving them a heads up when they know when they need to know when the activity is going to change or what's coming next. Keeping a conscious pace for your instruction is also super important. Make sure that you're mixing more tedious or repetitive classroom activities like lectures with things that permit students a variety and activity in between to give them a break from those longer instructions. Families of children with ADHD. It's important to remember that this doesn't just affect your student and you, it affects the parents, it affects the siblings, it affects the whole home. So having a child with ADHD affects every area of a family functioning and adds significant stress to parents and siblings. This can affect interactions both at home and with school professionals. You have to be careful not to blame parents for their child's ADHD, but at the same time, not condone inappropriate student behavior that a parent might excuse by saying that the child can't help it. There are certain levels of expectations that you need to keep in mind. Parents and family members are faced with responding to these children's emotions and behaviors on a daily basis, as are you. So your job is not to judge, but to aid these families as best you can by being understanding and providing any and all resources that are available and or requested by the parents. Doing this will build a cooperative relationship with the parents and provide the students with the best opportunities to be successful at home and at school. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can find me at the email listed below or see me later.